In this video, I'm going to be talking about gifts for squash players, and with Christmas fast approaching, it seemed like a perfect opportunity to do that. But of course, there are many other reasons that you might be buying gifts for friends and family who play squash. Eid, Diwali, Hanukkah, graduations, birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, any kind of celebration, or because you just want to show somebody that you love them. I will assume that you know nothing about squash, so I'll be talking you through the good ideas and maybe the more specialist ideas. I'll be talking about gifts for casual players, and I'll be talking about gifts for very committed players. Now, any product that I show you is for illustrative purposes only. I do not have an equipment sponsor. I have not been given any of these products to promote or to try and sell you. Anything that I show you, I bought myself. Now, I'll be talking about physical products first and then moving on to some services or ideas at the end. If there's anything that you are particularly interested in, use the YouTube chapters to jump straight to those. Just to finish this introduction very quickly, I want to remind you or tell you that there are specialist racket retailers, and if at all possible, try and find one in your local area and visit them. There's nothing wrong with really big stores like Decathlon. Decathlon is a great shop. I buy a lot of equipment from there, some of it even squash. I bought squash balls from there before. But if at all possible, go to the local racket specialist retailer, because they're the one with the most knowledge, and we need to support those shops because they give us the best value. Okay, so let's start with the obvious one, rackets. Well, rackets come in very many different types. Now, honestly, if your friend or family is a casual player and they don't really have a racket, then yeah, a racket could be a really good idea. But if the person that you're buying for plays a lot of squash, then maybe that is not the right choice. Rackets are very personal once you've been playing for quite some time, and generally buying a racket is a risky decision unless you know exactly what the person wants. Now, going back to those casual players, well, what kind of racket should you buy? Well, to be honest, as long as you don't buy an aluminium racket, those are the rackets with the two the shafts, don't buy those because they're really not very good. Pretty much anything else that you buy would be a good option for them, assuming that they don't have one. So don't worry too much about, oh, is this racket good for beginners or bad for beginners? Worry more about the price, and don't go and buy aluminium rackets. That's really the best advice I can give you. Only buy rackets if they're a casual player or you know exactly what they want. Next, kit. Well, I mean, you can buy socks, of course. Socks are like everybody needs, everybody who plays squash buys socks. You can buy t-shirts. I mean, everybody needs t-shirts. Now, squash players nowadays generally wear technical t-shirts, which is made of a special material designed to absorb the sweat. They come in many different colors. Some people like to wear a cotton type t-shirt. You can buy sweatbands if people play with those things. So there's plenty of options as far as kit are concerned, and they're like a really good default option, meaning if you can't think of anything else, okay, fine. But honestly, I think that there's probably better options which we'll sort of move on to. So yeah, but nah. Shoes. Well, yeah, I suppose you could buy shoes, but very much like rackets, they're a very personal choice. If a person has a pair that look like they're sort of, really getting damaged, then that's an option. You could buy exactly the same ones. If the person doesn't have a pair of squash shoes and you want to buy their first pair, that's a great idea. Make sure you buy indoor court shoes. Now, these are squash shoes, and they have a sole that is designed not to mark the squash court floor. But other similar shoes can be used. For example, volleyball, handball, badminton, table tennis. Those types of shoes are very, very similar, and they would make a good choice. But again, only if you really know which shoe that the people like, because I personally think that shoes are a very personal choice. Bags. Well, bags are very useful. I mean, this is a huge bag. This is a 12 racket bag, meaning I can get 12 tennis rackets in it. By the way, any time that you see these advertised, they're actually designed for tennis, but we use them for squash. That's another matter. The point is that if your friend or family doesn't have a bag, buying a specific squash bag can be really good for them. And this one is specifically designed to hold rackets, very easy to carry. Now this one is 12, but they do come in sort of smaller. They come in 6 and 9, and I've even seen them in 3s. But of course you don't even have to buy a racket bag. There are other kinds of bag that people can put their kit in and then just leave the leave the rackets outside. So I'd probably see what they use at the moment, talk to them, ask them some subtle questions. Oh yeah, it would be nice if you had a bag. And if they say yeah, then that's definitely an option. This next option is a little bit controversial. Squash goggles. Anytime I'm on court with anybody else, I wear them. The only time I don't wear them is when I'm making a video and I'm hitting the ball around, or when I'm doing solo practice. Not everybody is a big fan of them. Some people don't think that they're necessary, but I think that your eyes are too important to take any chances. They're not expensive. You can buy them for around €10, £10, $10. They do come in very expensive ones, but I don't think it's necessary to buy that. They're all buy ones that are accredited by the World Squash Federation. There's a list on the website. I'll put a link in the text description. Any of those manufacturers, you can buy those. Don't go to a hardware store and buy ones that are designed for other things. They might actually be okay, but the quality of the optics might not be so good, and they might not be. So it's better to buy ones specifically designed for squash. Squash balls. Now things are getting serious. If the person that you are buying these gifts for plays a lot, then squash balls, can't open the box, squash balls can make a great gift, a really good gift. If they play a lot, they probably play with what's called double yellow or single yellow. And for non-squash players, understanding that squash balls come in different dots and bounces and speeds can be a little bit confusing. These kind of balls are double yellows and they need replacing quite a lot. If the person you're buying gifts for only plays occasionally and plays with a red dot or even a blue dot, then you don't need to buy the ball as often. So you could buy a tin of 3 or 2 squash balls. That's perfect. So if they play a lot and they use single or double yellow dots, then yeah, a box of balls, I'm not going to tell you the price because it varies in many places, could be a really good idea. If they don't play as much, then maybe a few balls would be a good idea. Now this brand is Dunlop. Dunlop sell about 90% of the balls worldwide. Wherever you're watching, another brand might be popular, and that's fine. Try to buy the brand that your friend or family currently plays with. Different balls do play differently, and to give them a different brand, that might not be a good idea. Most people play with Dunlop balls, but not everybody. And if your friend or family plays with Head or Caracal or Prince or, I don't know, any other particular brand, try and find those and buy those balls. A whole box for somebody who plays very regularly and is quite high standard. A tin of 2 or 3 for somebody who only plays casually and maybe plays with a red or maybe a blue dot. Grips. Now, grips come in 2 different types generally. We've got this, which is called a replacement grip. This goes on, it's supposed to replace the grip that comes with the racket, but most people put it on top. It's much thicker, it's stickier. And then there's something called over grips, which are much thinner, and they just go on top of the other grips. Find out what the friend or family member actually uses and buy those. Now, I bought a whole box of grips because I use them a lot. And again, a little bit like the balls, if the friend or family member plays a lot of squash, then they'll be going through grips. Now, these are Caracal. These are generally considered to be the best, but not everybody agrees. Again, like the balls, find out what brand that they use and buy those. Now, you're probably wondering why I bought yellow. Well, believe it or not, generally within the squash community, the yellow Caracal PU grip, PU polyurethane, is considered the most long-lasting and maybe the tackiest. So what we're saying here is that the colour does matter. for some people. Other people don't care. I care, so I bought yellow. Other people don't. So see what they, a bit like the balls. If they play a lot, then a box of grips would be a fantastic gift. If they only play occasionally, then you can normally buy packs of 2 or 3, but try to buy the one that they've been using because that's probably the one they like. But maybe not. Try something new and they might enjoy it as well. Now, I've talked about balls and grips because those are consumables. Those are things that you have to buy regularly. Now, you don't have to buy rackets regularly. I've got some rackets that are 30 years old that are still quite capable of being used. But that's not what this is about. This is about strings. Strings break and strings need replacing. So you can buy restrings for your friend or family's racket. If they really like the frame and they break a string, they're going to get it restrung. And if you've given them a token for 1 restring at the local restringer, that will be an absolute great option. People never think about these things, but everybody needs a restring. So now I'm going to start talking about gifts for people who are very, very committed. People who've been playing squash for a long time and people who are really, really interested in squash. And the first thing I'm going to show you are vintage rackets. Now, these vintage rackets can be, you can buy wooden vintage rackets. This one comes from the 70s and the 80s. And you can buy early graphite rackets. This one comes from the 80s. These are not expensive. This one cost me about £5, this one cost me about £7, and depends on where you live, those prices will vary. Now, there are 2 reasons that you might want to buy this type of gift. The first one is because the person might want to put it in their office somewhere. It's often bought for putting in the back of the wall or as some decoration. The second reason is because it's actually really good practice to use a vintage racket maybe once a month just for 10 minutes, really just to show you how lucky we are with modern rackets. Now, you buy these on second-hand websites or services. Be careful if you buy a wooden racket and you want the person to use it because it has to be sort of straight. If you've got a racket that's bent, that's really bad. If you want to, you can ask me in the comments and I'll give you some advice. If you sort of link to, should I buy this racket for my friend, then I'll have a look and I'll give you a yes or no. Again, the same with here. We often find cracks in these rackets because they're nearly 40 years old, so they're not going to last forever. So that's a possibility, but don't buy these kind of things for the casual player. They're only things that really committed squash players would like. Continuing our theme of vintage, if your person that you're buying for is a very, very committed squash player, then there are some vintage books that might interest them. Now, it doesn't particularly matter which book. I mean, I've got a book here from the 1930s. This one cost me £10. And it's fun for a squash player to look through these kind of things. This one comes from the 1970s. Again, maybe £3 or £4. Sorry. This one comes from the 1980s. This is a pretty popular book at the time, and it's fun for those people to look through. If you want to buy a modern book, this book is absolutely fantastic, but it's quite expensive compared to the others. The others will probably cost you definitely less than £10. This is maybe in the £25 or €25 range. So you have to decide really, this is for modern squash players, it's for people who play squash, and you will learn a lot from this. These other 3 books are more for interest's sake, more for just, look what it used to be like in the 1930s. So more for, interest rather than actual improving their squash. Okay, time to move on to more service type situations. Here I've got a magazine called Squash Player. It's the de facto squash magazine for around the world. So if your person that you're buying for is totally committed to squash, you can buy a subscription to this magazine. And in fact, if you buy the older versions, you might see some of my articles in there, but that's not why I'm suggesting it. Now, it's available in the print edition, which is paper, of course, but it's also available in a digital edition. So that might be an option that is suitable for the person. It's easy to read on their phone. They don't have to have the physical paper copies. Think about that. Okay, so now it's time for what I consider to be the best gift that you can buy somebody, and that is coaching. Now, ideally, you'd be buying on-court coaching. Find out where the person that you're buying the gift for, where they play, and see if there's a coach available there. If there is, then talk to that coach and say, can I buy 1 or 2 lessons, and give them like a token, give the person that you're buying the gift for a token. Having coaching is absolutely the best way of improving, and it's a gift that most people never even think about. It's an idea that some people never even think about for themselves. So that could be really good. Now, if there isn't a coach available in the facility where your friend or family plays, then look a little bit further afield. Look around the clubs or facilities outside of like that particular facility. And you might find that they allow guests in, and if it's only for 1 or 2 lessons, they'd be really happy, because those clubs often want to attract new people. And if you have a reason to visit, you might say, these courts are nice, or these facilities are nice, maybe I'll think about playing here. I've never met a coach who has refused to sell a coaching token of 1 or 2 lessons. So that is my absolute recommendation, coaching for the person you're buying for. But there are other things besides on-court coaching that you can buy that can help you, your friend or family improve. I offer online coaching, which is basically you sending me a video of the person playing. I analyze it and send back a video talking about the areas that they can improve. I also have a service called Solo Routines Membership. For a fixed fee, you get a monthly solo routine delivered to your inbox. That's perfect for people who recognize the benefit of doing solo practice. Now, there are other people on the internet that can do that. So if you don't like me, and that's fine, look around and you'll probably find somebody who is doing that service or making that service available. And that could be a really good option, especially if there's no local coaches. So that's a really good choice. SquashTV is the best place to watch professional squash online. They offer live matches as well as video on demand content. There are various passes that you can purchase for annual, 3 months, monthly even. And if you really are interested, check the text description for a 20% discount. It's a great option for really committed squash players. And the last idea I promise that I'm going to suggest are tickets. Tickets for tournaments. Tickets for tournaments can be an absolutely great idea, especially if the person has never been to a professional tournament, and especially if it has a glass court. Now, of course, I don't know where you live. I don't know what time of year that you might be buying these gifts, so that might not always be possible. But if you can buy tickets for maybe 2 tickets, you can go and share the passion, or they can take somebody who loves squash as much as they do. Going to a tournament can be a real boost for their motivation. It can show them a world that they've never seen before. And I promise you, unless you've seen professional players play really close up, you don't realise how fast they move, how hard they can hit the ball, and how tight and accurate they play squash. It is mind-blowing. Think about that. Well, after all that, if you still can't find a present to gift, then I'm sorry, I've got to give up. I mean, come on, there's so many choices. You certainly should be able to choose something. Watch this video if you want to learn how to defend properly. And remember, do something every single day to improve your squash. See ya.